That's a really high bar that you just set for me. So whoever's in the room for the first three letters of the third row, that's not the right room. So just make sure. This is maybe for next year. This is not a talk about sex. This is a talk about looking deeper into our spirituality, sensuality, and sexuality. And I called it also like a love story for life. Actually, my love story for life. So brace yourself and enjoy. So who knows this? What is it? Yeah. 2014 was a very transformative year for me. I walked the Camino de Santiago, all the way from France, Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, the French way I did, starting from there all the way to Santiago, and then even further to kilometer zero, which is on the Atlantic. And there were three really deeper insights that I got from this I would call it three connections that I've since I started that journey, discovered more in my life. And I guess this is just leading up to those three areas that I spoke about before: spirituality, sensuality, and sexuality. What are those three connections? One is the connection to self, and it's not some far-fetched thing. It's actually something that every one of us has. And just to practice this for a very short moment, can you all close your eyes for a second? Just close your eyes, and just for a moment, focus on yourself. Just feel your breathing. Get aware of yourself. Really go within, just for a moment. Find that connection with self, with yourself. Open your eyes. And it's not something too far out there. It's very easy to get access to this. It's, of course, even whatever defines us in our mind, in our thinkings, in our emotions, it's still us, right? It's not necessarily what defines us, but it's part of us. And that's also part of the connection to ourselves. So that's one dimension that I discovered in 2014, walking there. But from many of you know potentially that it's a very spiritual journey. And how I did it also to come closer to this dimension was sleeping in a tent. So I walked it in a very traditional way. I only every seventh day, so this may sound gross, but every seventh day only I took a shower, a proper one, in a hotel, in a proper hotel, and all the other days I was just walk in my tent, sleeping at night, to really come close with myself, connecting to that deep inner part of me that makes me me. Another dimension that I discovered since then, and really, I guess in its deepest essence, got there, is the connection with others. How to connect with others, and it's also something that makes us so human, right? To just connect to one another. So just for a moment, can you, when you're sitting alone, that's also. Just turn around to someone, try to just, in silence, non-verbally, just for a second, look at each other. Just for a second, just connect to that other fellow human being there. Usually what works really well is just through connecting through the eyes. Just for a moment, look at each other. Just for a very short moment, connect to each other. Yes, the fear, the discomfort is growing. We can't hold this too long. Okay. So that second dimension of connection with one another is, I guess, also something that since 2014 has been, in many areas, be a guiding principle, a guiding force for me. How do I really connect deeper to one another, to someone else? And the third dimension is what I would call the connection to the world. And that goes, of course, that goes to connection to nature, to nurture, to culture, to what is all around. So also here, just for a moment, and I wanted to make this a little bit more interactive so people don't fall asleep, just have a look in the room. Just try to connect right now to the collective. So just really look around. Look at the diversity, look at the beauty in the room. Look at those people that somehow form an organism. A very, very beautiful organism. So, with those three dimensions, this is I guess how I embarked in the beginning of a very, very spiritual journey. I guess 2014 I would say was the birthplace of really embracing more of what else is there in life with those three connections. And since then, it really has brought me to so many places where I really try to live this to the utmost. Whether it's in this beautiful country where we are right now, whether it's climbing, I love climbing. I love that deep. When I go into the mountains, I get all those three connections to the most innate. Because connecting with myself, of course, right? Just being when you're on a mountain or even just going up that way, it's such a profound experience of I don't know how to describe it. It's serene. It's holy. It's sacred for me. And then it's of course the connection with the other, connection with, especially when you climb. Usually it's dangerous to do it alone. The other person, of course, is the one here taking the photograph, which is my dad. He's too old by now, but this is a few years ago, where we share those experiences. So really connecting with one another. And then, of course, with the world. Has anybody been on top of a mountain? Then you know what I'm talking about. Even just sitting in a plane and seeing like the sense of vastness of space is something I find always very profound. And that connection also has the potential to live when you're in nature like this. So whenever I went on those journeys, this for example Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Pig Lenin, a mountain 7,134 meters high, crazy. There's a Pig Lenin, that's the name, and this is all there is on top.
May I know which mountain is this?
Pig Lenin. Pig Lenin, Kyrgyzstan. Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is that especially in those times when I came, and it's very dangerous, right? 7,000 meters, that's already death zone, I guess you would call it. It's something, one of the learnings that with all those three connections that I got so far is the closer I come to death, the closer I actually come to life. It's a very profound journey. And it's not that I try to seek death experience, though some people in my life usually challenge me on, Johannes, are you sure? I think you really, really constantly need to challenge yourself too much. But it's something that I actively seek because I haven't, I guess, learned yet to find those three ways of connecting as powerful in everyday life that I seek those experiences. It's with the newest, recent experience that I'm doing is Ironman. Going for really extreme races, which I enjoy a lot, which is also about connecting to myself, connecting to someone else, because you cannot do those things alone. You always have to have a support person with you. And then, of course, connecting to the world as much as possible when you're in the race and trying to see as much as possible. Now, just those three connections and my exploration of those have given me a hypothesis that I started exploring in the last, a few years back. I guess it actually came also to the time in 2014 when I started on the Camino. And the hypothesis is this, that we deny a very crucial part of our self-expression. not just individually, but also organizationally. And unfortunately also societally and most of all collectively. And what are those crucial parts of that self-expression, of that we are bound to create? And that really make us dysfunctional, because what you're going to see in a moment is those crucial parts that I'm talking about in our self-expression, that we can also live them very functional, but unfortunately we have found ways individually, organizationally and also societally to sabotage ourselves of the beauty of what those three realms can be. And that's actually the title of the talk. So the insights that I have found, for me at least, about our beingness are those. We are all spiritual beings. There's a very profound side in us. I don't know who said it. There's this beautiful quote of saying, we're all spiritual beings having a human experience. We're not human beings having a spiritual experience. And there's a lot of truth in this. There's so much truth in this of when we start asking ourselves deeper, meaningful questions. And I guess in Isaac that's usually more happening than in other realms. That's when we at least can start getting a little bit forward in this dimension. Carl Gustav Jung has always said we have those four dimensions, right? The physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. And we're only whole human beings when we live in all those dimensions. And the issue here is we can do so functionally and dysfunctionally. And I really have come to, and spirituality is such a big topic for me that I've come to the point where I found my mission in life is actually bringing spirituality in companies. We need more of that dimension actively living in companies, where what's the dimension that is most lived in companies? What would you say out of those four? What are the dimensions that are most lived in companies? It's the mental one, right? That's how we're defined. We come to work as robots with our walls up and not as whole, authentic, spiritual human beings as we are. And I'm really devoting my life to hoping that I can make an impact. And in a way, this is also something that I believe is missing in these SDGs of how can we come more to the next level of consciousness as a species by embracing our spiritual sides. So, whether you believe it or not, and I'm not going to go a lot into this, but I just wanted to plant the seed at least a little bit in you. If you think, people say sometimes, yeah, I'm not emotional. That's just crap. Of course you are. We're also emotional beings. We're spiritual beings. If you say, I'm spirituality, that's this esoteric stuff, right? No, I don't have anything to do with this. Unfortunately, you do. It's also part of you. You're just not living it. You're not just completing your whole human experience by living all those four dimensions. So that's one of the realms that I really feel is crucial if we want to become whole human beings, which is also, I guess, part of Isaac when we speak about peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential, especially the fulfillment of humankind's potential. Another thing that coming from those three connections with myself, with others, and with the world is we're sensual beings. We all have senses. Just do this for a second, and let's do it again. A short exercise. Close your eyes for a second, and just take your right hand and being very, very caring, caressing your left hand. Just touch yourself in a very, very sensual way. Just feel the texture of your skin. Just feel the beauty that makes you you. You can go up the arm a little bit. And go to the face. Do have your eyes closed so that it doesn't distract you in any way. Just touch your face. How does that feel? Your cheeks, your nose. You can open your eyes. So even that capacity for sensuality is something that I'm feeling, at least my journey in life has taught me so far. We're not living this really. We're not. I mean, by now we even need to protect ourselves from giving someone a hug, because it may appear to someone, as in the US especially, or in probably many countries, as it's a move, it's something. We have lost the capacity to just connect on that dimension, on the sensual dimension with other human beings. And I'm also here in this world to hopefully bridge those gaps. That is not, it's not flirtatious necessarily. It's just simply connecting and reaching out with permission, of course. And that's also, I guess, something that we need to learn of asking and giving permission. And the last area is we're all sexual beings. And when I say sexual, I'm not talking about it from a very superficial perspective. I'm rather looking into the dimension of yin and yang, of energies, of the masculine and the feminine that we all have. And when men say, it took me, by the way, years to embrace the femininity that I have. I've been speaking to Isaac Plani's whatnot, people afterwards coming to me and saying, Johannes, you're gay, right? And it's very fascinating to see how much we have confused energy with gender or with sexual orientation or so on. And all I'm advocating here is for understanding that we all have those energies in us, the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine, that just search or that yearns for self-expression. And in that sexual beingness, that's when we can truly, also in all three dimensions, connect to yourself, connect to others, and connect to the world. Unfortunately, we're living in a society where porn and other industries are just mad. Like, I mean, it's billions that are in such an industry, and it makes me sad that we have really lost this capacity. So I guess what I'm saying here is, and inviting you to explore further, is how can you connect also sexually with yourself in a different way, with others in a different way, and with the world in a different way, from an energetic, spiritual, and sensual standpoint. And I guess what I'm really advocating also here is for taking on a different journey in life. And the question that I've asked myself after the Camino was this: if my life were a book and I were the author, how would I want my story to go? And that question, especially in the realm of those four dimensions, of the spiritual, emotional, mental, the physical, to really become a complete whole human being with a consciousness that gets raised higher and higher, higher. That human growth is something that I'm fighting for in this world. And I really hope that you're with me on this journey. And as your Isaac's alumni, I really hope you do. And I guess my question is, if that's my love story for life, what's yours? Thank you so much, and hope this inspired you a little bit.